It's Monday, November 21st, and this is now on HNN. Developing weather, we've got your first alert to some strong winds that are impacting most of the state.
A breaking news update, a powerful earthquake kills more than 160 people in Indonesia.
I heard shots, broken glass, bodies.
New today, the suspected Club Q shooter in Colorado is facing multiple murder and hate crime charges.
All these stories plus the fallout from the contamination crisis at Red Hill continues 1 year later.
We are not the ones that poisoned families.
That's coming up on This Is Now. Want to get started with this first alert coming into the HNN Digital Center. You're looking at the current wind speeds right now. A wind advisory has been expanded for much of the state, and those gusty and potentially dangerous trade winds are expected to linger around.
Yeah, and those strong trades could continue through tomorrow. For the latest on the conditions, let's check in with Dylan Ancheta, who's live from Magic Island. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Ashley and Jonathan. Yeah, it is a beautiful day here out at Magic Island. The sun is shining and that breezy trade winds are coming through. I'm going to step out of the shot here and give you a look here. We're right by some palm trees. They are dancing around. The winds where we are at actually aren't too bad. They're fairly manageable, but of course the areas of concern are the areas closer to the Mauka side of islands. As you mentioned, this wind advisory is covering much of the state. Now the National Weather Service has it up for parts of Oahu, Maui County, and especially the summits of Hawaii Island until 6 p.m. Sustained winds of 20 to 35 miles per hour will be possible, with gusts near 45 miles an hour, and even stronger winds are forecast for the summit areas of Haleakala, Mauna Kea, and Mauna Loa. Now the strongest winds, as mentioned, can be expected along mountain ridges and downslope areas. That includes the leeward slopes of Waianae and Ko'olau mountain ranges here on Oahu. Now all of this is making for a potentially dangerous situation, as there is also a red flag warning up for leeward portions of the state. That's in effect from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. due to strong winds and low humidity. And what does that mean? That means that there is an increased risk for brush fires to quickly grow, to quickly expand, and cause some real trouble out there. As we saw over the weekend, there are brush fires on the major islands of Maui County and Hawaii, and on Maui specifically, the brush fire that has been burning since Election Day has flared back up. Last night, fire officials said the Kauaula fire got started again because of these very strong winds. Now, we're told the crews there stayed throughout the night to try and contain the flames, and residents once again in the Launiu Poko subdivision were told to be on standby to evacuate if they needed to. Now, at last check, no evacuation orders were needed. However, residents in that area are being told to be on alert, to be ready to go if they have to. And also over on Hawaii Island, firefighters are still at the scene of a brush fire out there in Pahala. It broke out around noon yesterday, and at last check Sunday evening, at least 66 acres have burned so far. And that fire caused a voluntary evacuation of 2 homes along Maile Street. We are definitely keeping a close eye on that. And again, with these gusty trade winds, it is a concerning scene. Of course, that red flag warning with that high wind advisory, making things very dangerous out here all across the island. So if you are outside or planning to be outside, be sure to use caution if you're planning on grilling, starting campfires, and be just very careful out there. And of course, again, the winds here at Magic Island aren't too bad. They're fairly manageable, but of course the hairspray wasn't strong enough, so my hair is blowing around here. But overall, it's a nice day. Ash, Jonathan, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Now to some international news. The death toll from a 5.6 magnitude earthquake in Indonesia is now at 162, and authorities fear it will climb as crews continue to search through the rubble. Officials in the West Java province say more than 300 people have also been injured, and the quake caused hundreds of buildings to collapse and triggered landslides. Now, close to 14,000 people have been displaced so far, and refugee campsites have been set up to help those affected. The quake was very shallow, occurring at a depth of only 6 miles. That's according to the USGS. And here in the U.S., at this hour, at least 5 people are dead and 25 more are injured after a shooting erupted inside a Colorado gay club just before midnight on Saturday.
Yeah, Isabel Rosales is standing by in Colorado Springs with the very latest details.
2 law enforcement sources tell us that records show that Aldrich, the suspect, bought the guns himself, the guns that he used in the shooting, including an AR-style rifle and a handgun. Love over hate. A sign expressing that message now sits amongst a growing memorial of flowers, mementos, and notes outside of Club Q in Colorado Springs. A night of letting loose turning to tragedy late Saturday after a deadly shooting has now rocked the city's tight-knit LGBTQ community.
It was so scary. I heard shots, broken glass, bodies.
There was a moment in time where I feared I was not going to make it out of that club alive. And I have never prayed so sincerely and quickly in my life as I did in that moment.
President Biden responding to the attack in a statement, referencing the 2016 massacre at Pulse nightclub in Orlando, saying, quote, "While no motive in this attack is yet clear, we know that the LGBTQI+ community has been subjected to horrific hate violence in recent years. We saw it 6 years ago in Orlando when our nation suffered the deadliest attack affecting the LGBTQI+ community in American history." The FBI is now assisting local authorities who are investigating the shooting as a possible hate crime.
We're getting a clearer picture as witnesses are talked to and things like that. You'll get a much clearer picture over the next couple of days.
I think it's fair to say, based on the facts, it's very hard to conceive of a situation where the motive wasn't generated by hate.
Yeah, and Club Q opened 20 years ago. Up until recently, it was the only gay club in Colorado Springs. Now it is closed until further notice. In Colorado Springs, I'm Isabel Rosales.
New today, a former supervisor at Hawaii Community Correctional Center has been sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Jonathan Tom is accused in the severe beating of an inmate and then trying to cover it up. The Department of Justice says he oversaw the incident in 2015. Sean Kaili was hit and kicked 45 times over 2 minutes. Authorities say he suffered a broken jaw, nose, and orbital socket. Tom allegedly yelled at the officers, urging them to continue striking the inmate.
Well, this week marks 1 year since the start of the tainted water crisis at Red Hill. Our Mahealani Richardson is putting together a special series of investigative reports. Here's the first one.
A military investigation determined it was actually 2 fuel spills that led to the Navy's tainted tap water. But the one in November went on for more than 30 hours. We look back at the early days of the disaster.
Fuel operators noticed a discrepancy in the fuel level of one of the tanks that's located beyond this gate.
We think that it might be as much as 20,000 gallons, and it's important to understand that it might be considerably smaller amount.
I have a high degree of confidence that petroleum products from this incident have not migrated from the Red Hill tank facility towards the Red Hill well aquifer.
The Department of Health does not believe that this situation is an imminent threat.
Thanksgiving weekend, families living in and around Pearl Harbor started complaining of fuel smells, a sheen in their tap water, and even yellow ice cubes.
That's a massive amount of things that should not be in my water.
On Monday, the state health department advised 93,000 water users along the Navy's water line to not drink the water. Nearly 5 days after the complaints, a lab contracted by Hawaii News Now found diesel in a sample from the Navy's water line.
They did find a trace amount of diesel.
No. Oh my word.
Later that evening, the Navy confirmed its tap water was contaminated.
I'm pretty depressed. It is, this was all foreseeable. We knew this was going to happen. Nobody listened to us.
The source of the contamination, the Navy's underground World War II-era Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, which had a history of leaks and sits 100 feet above Oahu's aquifer.
Navy families who've apparently been drinking tainted water for days now are fuming at military officials for failing to warn them early.
I'm ruthlessly trying to find out when those reports were made and who they went to and why we didn't find out about them, because I need to fix that.
And as soon as you step inside, you can definitely smell some sort of fuel. In fact, even to the feet, it's pretty slick. Yeah. The water is definitely different, and once your hand's dry, you can feel sort of a gritty and oily nature to the water.
So to see somebody else feel it, see it, know it, now what goes through my head is, how long have I been poisoning myself and my kids?
Investigations by the U.S. Pacific Fleet pinpointed May and November 2021 spills and a series of cascading failures.
Then a trolley hits a low point drain on this sagged pipe, and the fuel spills out. The team that's there is inadequately trained to respond.
Can you give us a number of how many people were disciplined, reassigned, or fired because of this water disaster?
There are a number of people who are no longer in their assigned duties.
Military teams saw 6,000 people for a slew of illnesses: rashes, headaches, nausea, fatigue, dizziness, and intestinal issues. Many were hospitalized, civilian families impacted too. 7 public schools couldn't use the tap water, and 4,000 military families evacuated. Many lived in hotels for up to 4 months until the state health department declared the water was safe to drink.
I've just cycled between depression, despair, anxiety over and over again for the past, since November. And on top of that, my entire family was ill.
All right, we're bringing in Mahealani Richardson now to the H&N Digital Center to talk more about Red Hill, the water crisis. 1 year later, I can't believe it's been a year. I want to take you back in time, Mahea, which we just did in that piece. But when was the moment you realized, whoa, this was a really big deal?
Well, Jonathan, we all realized that this was a very big deal from the get-go, instantly. I mean, the Navy had suffered fuel spills in the past, and because this involved the U.S. military, I knew right away that this was going to be a national incident.
And we've heard about controversies over Red Hill for years and decades. Ernie Lau, known for raising the red flag for some time, right?
Right. For 7 to 8 years, he had been saying because of these underground tanks, which are sitting 100 feet above the aquifer, he was saying all along that he was concerned that there would be a catastrophe, a contamination event, and it happened. And so when that happened, there were reports of the fuel smells and the chemical smells. And so I knew, we needed to see it, smell it, feel it for ourselves. And so what we started to do was meet these military families, and to get onto base at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, we went there as their guests, jump into cars with dogs, families, children, and we went to their homes. And that's how we were able to see for ourselves the fuel in their drinking water.
Yeah, that's the most important element to this whole story, is the people side of it. And I think you, one of the best reporters in the entire market, really reaching out and touching the real lives that it matters to. What are some of those moments that stick out of the people you met, and how have their lives changed since the crisis and now to today?
Well, John, I think what was really interesting and for much of the crisis is that a lot of the families that I talked to, Jamie Simic, who we just saw in that story, they all felt that they were crazy. Because, and even I, when I smell that water, you go, oh, is it something in there? Is it something real? And then there were mixed messages. The Department of Health was saying, don't drink the water. But the Navy was saying, we're drinking the water, it's fine. And so that was leading people to question themselves. Am I just, what should I believe? What should I do? So there was so much confusion. And I think by telling our stories, we actually helped to validate that this was a very serious problem that needed immediate action.
And just sort of looking ahead to just today, it really shows you a vibe shift from the military. They're holding a media briefing, right, later today. And it's sort of an about face in who we're hearing from.
Absolutely, it is an about face. You know, in the beginning, the military, the leaders of the military were saying that this is not a crisis, that there was no contamination in the water, and we were still drinking it. And there were communication differences and lapses between the agencies. Now there's an entire joint task force. They're trying to involve the community. There are a lot more meetings. When you talk to military commanders like the admiral who is in charge of the joint task force, they say water is critical. We understand the community. We need to get that fuel out of Red Hill. And so you can tell that they have now had several meetings with important leaders of the community, like Department of Health, like the governor, like Ernie Lau at Board of Water Supply, and they seem to be on the same page in terms of messaging.
Yeah, that media briefing we're expecting to stream live on your H&N digital platforms today, somewhere around 1 o'clock, we think. We don't have the exact time. Sometimes it can fluctuate a little bit, but around 1 o'clock, look for that push alert. Also coming up later today on later editions of H&N, Mahia has another story you're working on, right?
That's right. All week, Jonathan, we're working on a series of investigations. It's H&N Investigates Red Hill 1 year later. And we are looking at the people, like the people who've been impacted by the tainted water crisis. And we're asking them to go back and to go forward. And so we're hearing tonight at 10 from Ariana Wyatt. Her daughter drank the fuel-tainted water and is suffering these strange lumps on her neck, and they are testing her for cancer today. And she's only 4 years old, and so we follow their journey.
So many angles, and that's why we're doing this long series all week long here, Red Hill 1 year later. Right now, we want to toss it over to Guy Hoggy to get a check of the developing weather outside.
Another more vigorous cold front coming in sometime Wednesday night into Thanksgiving morning. So a little damp Thursday morning, but that'll clear up by the afternoon. And behind it, very powerful trade winds will come back in. So it's going to be a windy Thanksgiving. But the winds start up today. This is your 7-day forecast, right? 15 to 30 with some stronger gusts upwards of 50 miles an hour. That's why there's a wind advisory. We could get spotty power outages today. The winds level off, but still breezy levels tomorrow. And then Wednesday through Friday, they come back. And again, Thanksgiving is the day when it's expected to be especially windy. Lighter winds coming in this weekend.
NASA's Orion spacecraft passed near the surface of the moon today. Christian Benavides has more.
Orion's onboard cameras captured this view of the approaching moon and a very small Earth floating in the distance. The blue orb then disappeared as NASA's capsule and crew of test mannequins began a 34-minute journey around the backside of the moon.
And we do have loss of signal.
No communication could happen here, hence the animation. But during this time, NASA says Orion buzzed 80 miles above the moon's surface. Orion then fired up its orbital maneuvering system engine, leveraging the moon's gravitational pull to catapult into a new distant orbit.
Earthrise of our pale blue dot.
About an hour later, Orion soared above Tranquility Base, where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on July 20th, 1969.
This is one of those days that you've been thinking about and dreaming about for a long, long time.
Next Monday, Orion will travel about 270,000 miles from Earth, the furthest in NASA's history for a spacecraft intended for astronauts.
NASA looks at the Artemis program as really a two-phase sort of thing. One, test technology and procedures in order to eventually go to Mars. And two, look for resources you can mine on the moon to make exploration easier and lower cost.
Orion's 3-week journey will end December 11th with a splashdown near San Diego in the Pacific Ocean.
3, 2, 1, boosters in ignition.
Orion blasted off last week atop the most powerful moon rocket NASA has ever built. If this Artemis mission is successful, astronauts are slated to head to the moon as early as 2024. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
All right, let's see what else the interweb is abuzz about today, and this is pretty cute, and it always gets me into the T-Day spirit. President Biden, He held that annual tradition there at the White House, time-honored the presidential duty of pardoning turkeys today. So the turkeys are named Chocolate and Chip. Yep, they arrived to D.C. from North Carolina on Saturday. They stayed at the ultra-swanky Willard Hotel.
Ooh.
Yep, that's right nearby. Turkey pardons reportedly date back to the days of Lincoln, when his young son allegedly asked his father to spare the pet turkey that was supposed to be a part of Thanksgiving dinner. But the first documented turkey pardon was given by JFK in 1963. That is a major turkey there. That's for real.
That's
for
an
real.
ugly, ugly bird.
Yeah, it's huge. That could feed a lot of people there at the White House. All right, let's get to some good news now. Billy V's got an awesome interview ahead of KHNL's holiday lineup.
It's Thanksgiving coming up, and you're going to be around the television, and if you are a dog lover, or even if you're not, you're going to be mesmerized by these wonderful companions of ours that are going to be doing incredible things. Joining us, NBC's The National Dog Show, presented by Purina, the hosts, John O'Hurley and David Fry. Gentlemen, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you. Nice to be with you on this very important day.
Thank you very much. Tell us who our guest is and who are you holding?
I've got Ani here, who is a Beaver Terrier, was one of the new breeds that was introduced last year. She's a sweet little thing. You can see they look somewhat Yorkie-like. They have different coloring, but she's been out. She's had a great year in the show world after being recognized a year ago. So they're a big part of the family and a big part of what we do.
We'll have about 195 different breeds. That's 195 of the 208 that are actually registered. The breeds and varieties there by the AKC, the Kennel Club. And we'll also have 7 of the top 10 show dogs in the country, and number 1 and number 2. So this is going to be quite a stiff competition here. And it just underlies the prestige that the National Dog Show presented by Purina holds every year as one of the most important events in the world of canines.
David, tell us, what is your favorite part of everything that goes on this evening?
I'm the same as everybody else. I love seeing the new breeds because we haven't had very many of them around for a while. But I also love seeing all the different dogs. I love seeing the dogs doing things with their people and having a great time. I love the competition. This is a dog show with all the great dogs at that. We don't see that happen very often at dog shows where they all show up in the same place at the same time. So it's fun to have them competing. So we enjoy the competition. We enjoy the entertainment of 195 different breeds and varieties. And we just love being able to think about our own dogs while we're doing that.
And John, of course, you've been with this, both of you have been this for years. What are you looking forward to?
Well, for me, it's one of the most exciting days of the year. If you're around 10 to 20,000 people that are there in the arena, and all of the dogs have to remain with their owners backstage. That's why it's called a benched show. So all of those people that are there in the arena get to walk up and down the aisles backstage to meet the dogs personally, to meet the owners. And if perhaps you're looking for a dog for your family, this is a wonderful educational, interactive experience. And it's wonderful for kids as well.
Well, happy holidays to both of you in advance of the holiday season, and we look forward to seeing you. Once again, the National Dog Show presented by Purina. That's going to be airing Thanksgiving Day, and you will see it here on KHNL. To both of you, thank you very much, and aloha.
Aloha, thank you.
Awesome. Hope to see Stanley there, Ashley's dog. He'd be the best in show for sure. Have a good one, everyone.
See ya.